Hello and welcome to another video and podcast from Fantasy Football Scout. Today it's all about Sky Sports Fantasy Football, £50,000 up for grabs. My name is Joe and joining me is Luke. Luke, how are you?
I'm all right, Joe. I'm okay. I'm doing all right. The upsetting thing for me, as per usual every week, my B team outscored my A team.
Yeah.
But apart from that, it wasn't that bad considering I think fantasy in the whole was pretty bad across the board against all games for most people this week.
Okay, so today's video is going to be a bit of a shorter one because Gameweek 4 overhaul, we're going to talk more about that in another video. Still got more things to learn. Just a few things I wanted to draw out. Man of the matches. The Leeds goalkeeper, Meslier, got man of the match, 17 points, only 6.1. Antonio, Mount, Trossard, Ings and Vardy. So obviously some of the goal scorers there, but others are like Trossard, Mount, Antonio are catching the eye of the man in the stands. Shots tier, Dallas again, looking good. Tackles tier 2, Reece James again could be an option. Mitchell cheap if he can keep his place at Palace. In fact, the Palace players did really well on tackles, probably because they were playing Everton, only way to stop them, but that's something to watch out for. Passing tier 2, Højbjerg, good option. At Spurs, not as good as Kane though, perhaps, and the rest were a lot of defenders there. So what we're going to do is quickly have a look at your team, see how you got on for the benefit of our podcast listeners. You've got McCarthy, Robertson, Vinagre, Justin, Ward-Prowse, Kevin De Bruyne, Antonio, Fernandes, Rodriguez, Salah and Werner. You got Salah in for Kane, but I understand that not only didn't it work out, it actually cost you points. Is that right?
Yeah, cheers, Joe. Yeah, I had Robertson, so the original plan was probably just to captain Robertson, but I thought Arsenal would score. They did score, but Robertson obviously got a goal and played well, and I think probably deserved. Well, I should say Mane, but maybe was in the frame for man of the match more than Trent, at least to me anyway. Yeah. So, it actually cost me 2 points in the end because I brought in Salah to captain him. So that was 22 points. But I just left the armband on Robertson, it would have been 24. But I'm also a transfer down. So I really need Salah away to Villa to now score some decent points to make that move worth it, which, there's penalties out there these days. So maybe, but Salah away, traditionally not particularly good, and Villa have looked quite sturdy. So, yeah. Sometimes you're damned if you do, sometimes you're damned if you don't.
It
right?
looks like
big captains.
We're going to talk about overhaul teams a bit later, tiny bit, because we're going to talk about that in earnest in a future video. But it looks like Robertson has definitely played his way into staying in your team, and I guess the others are just a question of the more premium options there, keeping those slots free. But I understand you're thinking much more about going for a cheaper defence with Robertson in there.
Yeah, I just think that this season, the fact that clean sheets look a little bit rare. Now, whether that lasts or not is another point. It could quite easily revert. But when there's penalties getting chucked around like confetti and goals are flying in, it suddenly makes you think, why am I spending so much money on my defence, especially when some of these cheaper guys have now got an easier way to get bonus with these tackles. And there's a lot of these cheapy guys that are actually quite good this season, which is quite a rare thing. So you already mentioned Dallas there, who was very, very good. I think Marcel from Wolves is a Wolves wing back that's 6.3, I think he is. So there's and a Lamperty 6 million. He's looked excellent. So there's a lot of cheap guys there, and the price difference between the likes of them and a Van Dijk is like 5 million. Now I think Van Dijk's obviously going to outscore them, but I think they're going to be reasonably close in points. Not reasonably close. In terms of 5 million difference, it's not going to be huge. Whereas if you go to the likes of Salah and Werner and you drop down 5 million, you're looking at 7 million forwards. Now, are any of those guys, these are Kamara from Fulham and stuff, are any of them going to be anywhere near these guys? I don't think they are. So it's almost like reverting to old school Sky for me, where we used to just have a complete cheap line in the old days, have the likes of Cathcart from where... who have they played for? Watford.
Watford. I remember going for Watford defence, 3 of them in there, and it did really well. I long for those days. I just want to put my team up because it's broadly similar. So I've only used one transfer for this lot. So I ended up captaining Van Dijk for my 10 points. It just says 0 on there because I took that picture before the match. But yeah, I got Ramsdale, Bertrand doing very well with 7 points there. Doherty with 4, Justin with 4, and a 4-4-2. Got Ward-Prowse, Kevin De Bruyne, Antonio and Havertz, and then Kane and Werner up top. I'm thinking I like your idea about a slightly cheaper defence, but with a Liverpool defender in there. I may double up on Liverpool defence. That's an issue I'll consider, but I definitely want to have three premiums there, one in midfield, two in attack, something like that. I want to have the option to bring them in for those key captaincy days. Now we've got some questions really. I just want to point out that I'm in the top 10 ish for my Sky teams at the moment, and I'm quite happy with that. If I can stay around that, I'll be delighted. But you never know.
Top 10? You mean top 10?
Top 10k. Top 10k.
Right, I was going to say. Yeah, I'd be delighted.
I'd be delighted to be the top 10. If I was in the top 10, I'd have used about 20 transfers. And I've just gone for a blanket Leeds defence or something like that, because they're so attacking. We've got some questions, which I think could be quite interesting about some of the things we've been talking about here. FPL Andrea says, Ilan Meslier, is he the new Fabianski? I think that draws on what you were saying earlier, really, about we can get a lot of value in defence and goalkeepers this season.
Yeah, he's a teaser, Meslier. He really is, because he does look a very, very good keeper. He's obviously making saves. I think he's made saves all 3 games now. And it's the 6.1 million thing, which is very, very cheap. So I suppose it's just how many clean sheets do you think Leeds are going to keep over the season? If you want to spend like an extra 0.5, 6, 7, 8, you just to start looking at the likes of Pope, Patricio, people like that, where you'd be more confident that they're going to hit 15 clean sheets for the likes of Patricio. I mean, the Wolves haven't looked like it, but I think over the course of the season, you'd think you'd back them to sort that out and maybe start keeping some clean sheets. So you won't get as many save points as Meslier. So he's definitely in my thoughts because of that sort of 0.78 saving. But I guess as ever, it's going to be what can you do with that? So I think you need to make your team, and then suddenly if you've got this 0.7 that can change, the likes of a Werner into a Salah or something like that, then suddenly you might want to do it. So it's kind of one of those ones, I think.
Well, yeah, I mean, a few thoughts here about looking at our overhaul. Before we mention Game Week 4, but Dan McKenna asks how far in the future should we be planning our overall team, and that's in reference really. We don't know. We haven't got a big fixture list. We've only just found out Game Week 4 is in over 2 days. We don't know about the rest yet, so it is hard to plan. Auto Reclo said, should we just get penalty takers in? Well, that could be a good way of doing it. So just get penalty takers for every team. And Lee FPL Seagull asked just generally for our early draft thoughts, our overhaul thoughts. So I think you've given your thoughts there. Obviously, some premium there, but look for that value in attack.
Yeah, I think I'm going to go a little bit cheaper in defence than usual. I think I'm going to spread the players out as much as I can as well, for the reasons he just mentioned. We don't know the fixtures, so rather than having 2 or 3 from one team, I think try and get maybe just a 2 from one team that's max, really.
Yeah.
Try and get as much coverage across the board as you can. But obviously, you don't want to be captaining a rubbish player, so you just need to have a structure where you can sort of move 1 or 2 spots to these premium captains, which is what I'm going to try and do. But yeah, there's some names out there. I mean, Podence at 6.6 million, if he's fit, is looking like a very, very good enabler. Lamperty, 6 million. I think Dallas, Marcel from Wolves. There's a number of really good cheap options out there, I think, and getting those guys right and what they enable elsewhere is going to be quite key. So still got 1 more week to decide, I think. Yeah,
we had another question about could Jack Robinson be the new Gilbert? Gilbert played for Villa, plays for Villa, was a great 4.9, I think he was. 4.6 or so option last season. I can't remember what he was. He was under 5 million. But Jack Robinson is replacing O'Connell, who has a long-term injury at Sheffield United. From what you were saying, I think there's so much value in the 6 million or so price range. I don't think we need to go that far, and I'd quite like to not use transfers as best as I can. So I'd prefer the likes of Dallas, for example, with all those shots tiers. But
there's also the fact that Egan was suspended, right? So you think when Egan comes back, they've got Amamtu, is that how you say his name?
Yeah.
So I think it's which one of him and Jack Robinson will actually play, because they're fighting for one spot. I could be wrong, because obviously Sheffield United work in a system, and he might not fit that particular cog in the system. So better off speaking to a Sheffield United fan. But I think Sheffield United don't look that great anyway. And when you look at the likes of Mitchell's only 0.3 more, I know he's at risk from Patrick Van Aanholt, but I feel given he gets tackle bonus every game, and he has got a chance of staying in the team, I would just slightly prefer him at the moment anyway.
Yeah, and I think I want an Everton player, especially if there's the single match days with Everton. I want one of them. It could be Allen. Not as sexy as Rodriguez, but I quite like the fact that he's picking up bonus points as well. I might go Rodriguez. It's probably going to be one of them, but it might be Calvert-Lewin depending on the structure. But you can see the thought process there. I'm looking for value really, and I think Everton are giving it because if they were valued as they are now, they would be much more. So they're underpriced this season. So I want to take.
And Hammers is one just to be just to be wary of. He's got 2 points in 2 out of his 3 games, so he doesn't really rack up anything else apart from. I mean, he looks fantastic in every game he plays, and he's obviously got holes in him because he can get man of the match, assist, a goal. He takes some set pieces, everything, but you have to be wary of these players that look fantastic, but at the end of the day aren't chipping in with those bonus points. So for me, I'm not sure about him yet. He is a good price though.
No, he is a good price. Just quickly before we go, game week 4 is here pre-overhaul. Is it really overhaul is what we're looking at really? But game week 4, some interest. What's nice is that you've got matches Saturday, matches Sunday. You don't have to worry about Friday, Monday, any of that business. And you've got lots of options. I think the Saturday looks particularly good with Man City against Leeds. I'm looking at Kevin De Bruyne for me. Are you looking at De Bruyne as well that day, or you got someone else in mind?
I mean, I've got Werner, and he's at home to Palace, and you just think, should I just captain him because he could even be on penalties in that game? He suddenly could turn around and be explosive, and obviously City didn't look particularly good last week, but then he just, the week before that, Man City looked absolutely irresistible. So Kevin De Bruyne, given what he can do, probably be my captain yet. I think it's a good game for them potentially.
Yeah, I mean, I'm looking at Sunday. Some really great matchup. Leicester against West Ham. If you got Vardy, very interesting there. If you got Ings, Southampton against West Brom. West Brom are the whipping boys officially. They're in a league of their own when it comes to their defence. And Ings is on penalties. If you've still got Aubameyang against Sheffield United, I think that's a good bet there. Obviously Jimenez against Fulham. If you have him, for you, I would imagine Fernandes maybe would be quite a good option, or Salah against Villa, or Robertson against Villa.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a penalty taker just because of the nature of the season so far. So there's a number of good ones there. I'd love to have Ings, I'd love to have Jimenez, I'd love to have Vardy. This could be a real swing week, I think. Some of them are going to do really well, some are going to do really bad.
Tragically, in this one, if I make no more transfers, I may go into this with Van Dijk against Villa, and I don't feel happy about that. But it's just 1 week. If there wasn't the overhaul, I would make that move. But I just don't.
No, for 1 week you could easily just miss with your captain
just 1
anyway.
Week I might get it, and then Van Dijk gets a goal and a clean sheet, and I've got in someone else like Salah who doesn't do much. I'll be kicking myself.
Villa are hardly banging the goals in, are they? They're very tight, but they're not really scoring that many. Yeah, and for me, it's similar. Salah or Bruno Fernandes, who's captain here. I'll probably go with the guy with the home game because Salah's not particularly good away quite a lot of the time. But ultimately, with these penalties around, anyone could haul. I think so. It's a little bit of luck in this one, I think.
Yeah, I just wanted to mention some of the stats that we've got that we've drawn out for our decisions from the Fantasy Football Scout members area. Lots of good stuff there. Very interesting for looking for passing, tackling, that kind of thing as well. As I said, so it's a shorter one today on the video, but it's going to be a longer one next time because then we're going to be looking at our overall team in earnest. We're going to have another week's worth of information. But in the meantime, Luke, thanks so much for joining me and good luck with your game week in Sky.
Thanks, Joe. Hopefully our A teams will outperform our B teams once. That would be nice to see you on the next one.